Good morning, folks. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Radical Radical Show. I'm your host, Bradley, and today we are, regrettably, continuing our Let's Play of the 7 Districts of Sin. The Tail Makes the Fox. On the last episode, there was reverse vor. The episode before that, there's actual vor. So God only knows where we're headed. But apparently, to Miles' shock, the dining room door opens with her keycard. Can I just switch narration to being Captain Kirk for this entire episode? Only 2 people are sat at the table ready for dinner. Anzu is still missing, and Kali is looking gloomy down at her plate. The only acknowledgement the girl's entrance gets is from Celios.
Glad you found your way this time.
Hi, Celios. The only somewhat okay character. And my key card even worked for the door!
Well, I expected you have Callie to thank for that.
Celios motions towards the girl, who's picking at her small meal of soup and bread. The silver-haired girl looks up at Miles, but says nothing in response. At least she's acknowledging me in public now. The Gumiho feels a little happy with all these small victories of hers. The 3 of them begin their meal. Besides the sound of their chewing, everything is quiet and reasonably peaceful. Duchess! Look at this hog over there. Just licking some cream cheese off a plate. What a lard. And now you just leave, licking your lips. All the tranquility is brought to an abrupt end when the door suddenly swings open. In strides Anzu with Gaki close
governess!
Why is Gaki here? The small girl exclaims, standing up from her seat. But the governess' cold glare saps all the girl's surprise and delight out, causing her to crumple back down onto
Every time I came in one mouth, boom! Another would spring up and start sucking a different part of me. I thought it would never end.
Every time Gaki exists, a part of me dies. Every single time. You can visually see my soul leaving.
Who would have thought
Every
a
time he
Hydra
speaks.
would make such a good bedfellow? But that's just like the madam. Always going the extra mile to bring new pets to her house.
Why hasn't he been killed yet? Is the real question here. Like, I'm sure nobody would get in trouble for it, right?
She said the Hydra was more for her female patrons, but I still found good uses for all those heads. Ah, speaking of the madam, she said you haven't... Oh, it's you!
Much to Anzu's relief, the fox boy's attention is suddenly diverted towards the table of delicious beans and Celios.
What are the chances of meeting you here?
Pretty high, considering that she is staying... Master Gaki, what are you doing?
Gaki forces a cushion between Celios and Miles, sending himself awkwardly upon it. There's clearly not enough space, as half of the cushion rests on the vampire's lap before he's forced to stand up, glaring down.
Fix me a plate, would ya?
The kitsune bats a hand at Celios, shooing him away from his
This
side.
is hardly acceptable behavior, Master Gaki.
Gaki scooches close enough to Miles that one wrong move of her fork could end up stabbing him in the eye. A thought that does occur to her for a moment.
How I've missed you. Did you miss me too?
The girl is saved from having to answer that when Celios stomps his foot, gaining the foxboy's attention.
That is my seat.
And now it is mine. Shoo, fly.
Don't say that to him!
Why? What is he going to do? Anzu was too busy with her pet, and I'm too invested in mine. Fifth wheels like Celios should just roll into ditches and die.
The boy laughs while feeding himself from the girl's plate. Hey, get your own!
Why? You're the only morsel I need.
Master Gaki, that is...
Celios begins to speak, but knows that there's nothing he can do without Governess Anzu's input. Palman looks to her, but she simply isn't looking his way. Instead, she's instructing Kali on what to put on her plate, though Kali looks all too happy to oblige. 2 women converse while Kali fills Anzu's plate with lobster tails, fish eggs, several strawberries, nectarines, mango slices, kumquats, and whatever the hell else pleases the governess's eyes in the moment. Kali's hand shakes under the weight of all the food, but Anzu continues to instruct her. The woman smirks, twisting Kali's silver strands of hair around her finger until the bridge stretches tautly between them. All of Anzu's attention remains on her meal, and Celios finally
Very well.
The vampire bites his tongue, taking his plate and cushion to sit beside Kali. With a grimace, the girl scoots away from him and closer to Anzu. The uncomfortable atmosphere at the table continues until the silver-haired girl finally places the governess's plate in front of her. Only now is anyone else at the table worthy of her attention.
How has your work been, Fox? Are you almost finished?
God, I wish. I wish we were almost finished. It's coming along steadily. I should be finishing my assignment on schedule.
I'm quite sad to hear that.
As am I.
And me too.
Chloe doesn't share the sentiment, but she does look at Miles for a moment, her expression a little hard to read. At the least, she isn't glaring at
She
Miles
has been
anymore.
working extra hard, even though I haven't read her report. She seems to be a very...
I know that. Naturally, as a kitsune, she exceeds all expectations. There is no species more suited to poking their noses in other people's business than the fox demons.
Would you please let me finish?
What you have to say is irrelevant. You don't share the same intimate bond that we do. Our deep ancestral roots are tied deep within our souls and connect us on a level that scroungy vagabonds like yourself could never understand.
I'm growing steadily more hateful of this character's existence.
All that remains now is to let our connection manifest physically.
Master Gaki, I believe that your delusions have gone far enough.
Delusions? What the hell is he talking about?
He's trying to say that I don't. Gaki doesn't let Miles finish before he's back.
Do not soil my passions with your words, or else I'll soil the floor with your guts!
Your threats do not scare me, Master Gaki, second son of the Gakilian family.
I'll gut you!
Foxboy leans over the table to strangle the vampire when suddenly Governess Anzu rises from her seat. The two men stop mid-squabble.
I'm bored of this. I will be resting in my room. Do not disturb me.
The governess walks away from all four of them. They stare on at the melancholy woman as she drags her feet and leaves the room.
This is all your fault!
Chloe stands ready to run after her governess, but is held back by Celios.
Please, Callie, do not do anything that may go against Governess Anzu's wishes.
The girl tears her hand out of the pale man's grasp and glares at
You
down
are
at
no
him.
better than that pervert was, fawning over that fox girl as if our governess wasn't sitting right there.
Fawning? I certainly was not.
So Anzu wasn't the center of attention. Big whoop.
That recording of his voice there sounded very off. It sounded like they switched mics. for a
You
moment.
shouldn't even be here in the first place. Leave immediately. And you, hurry up and finish your task. Your presence here has done nothing but upset our delicate balance of life.
Fine, the sooner I'm out of this nut house, the better. Miles stands, although both of the men start to protest and attempt to smooth things over. She leaves the room as quickly as she can, not wanting anything more to do with any of them. The frustration spurs the auditor on. Quickly enough, night comes. She looks down at her report and starts to feel a moment of relief. Soon, this will all be over. However, for some reason, that thought is leaving a bitter taste in the girl's mouth. There's still something missing here. For the good of everything, what more is there that she can do besides hope that what she has is enough? Except, there is something more that she can do. The files she retrieved from Anzu's office earlier really have been useless. Several of them are almost insulting, with how obvious it is that whatever these files had once contained is no longer there. It's time for Miles to do some snooping of her own. Without the governess's help, she finally has a way to access the main office. And by the governess's mood at dinner, the auditor doubts that she will be there this evening. It's now or never. It's by some stroke of luck that the door has remained open. Thanks to that, the Gummy-Ho is able to slip into the office without a hitch. The room is dark, but she doesn't dare turn on the lights, in case someone is watching the place. Watching the office sounds like just the sort of thing Collie would do. Although Miles is starting to accept even the silver-haired girl's worst attitude, it's hard to swallow just how much Collie seems to dislike her for no reason that she can think of. The reason is clear to everyone but the fox herself, of course. Collie did shout at the Gumi-Ho at dinner, but she's starting to realize that the anger wasn't completely directed at herself. 85% of it, maybe, but at least not the entirety. Forget about her and focus! Miles has a job to do, of course. Getting involved in the private lives of these people is only going to end terribly. There's just too much stuff to get through, and getting through a lot of shit is exactly what the auditor is about to do. She pulls all the files she can reach from the shelves, hoping none of them have been tampered with. But there are just too many to look through. The longer she spends inside the room, the more likely she is to. A crash comes from outside the window, and all of the files drop to the floor, the contents scattering at her feet. She walks out of the room, only to find that there's nothing particularly wrong. Just a string or something, I guess. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to be worried about at all. Noise still has Miles spooked, though. She quickens her search, gathering all the files she dropped before checking the desk for anything that might prove useful. Whatever Anzu is working on must be important. Taking the files from Anzu's desk might seem like a bigger risk than Miles should take, but when the success of her whole task is on the line, risks have to be taken. The Gumiho quickly rearranges the files on the desk to make it look as if nothing is missing. Then, as quiet as a fox in the night, she quickly makes her getaway. I can't believe I did that! I need to hide these before someone sees them. She looks around the room before sliding the files into her pillowcase. If anyone looks here, I'll know. Feeling like she's finally one-upped the queen of tricks, Miles gives herself a literal pat on the back before running off to finish the rest of her work. When has anyone ever referred to Anzu as the queen of tricks? When has that happened? After getting a little more work done, the girl returns to her bedroom. Game, I should warn you that I did just get done watching the second season of The Promised Neverland. So I'm slightly agitated for and not well accepting of bad character design and badly written characters. Today turned out better than I expected. Except for my voice, and forget to do that every now and then. As much as that is true, there's something about the day that doesn't make it feel like everything is such a rousing bundle of success. She can't remember the last time she felt so lost, if ever. It isn't as simple as homesickness. She could have fought that off easily, knowing how impressed Lucy is going to be by her work. Cures any sickness. This is a much older feeling, one she's pushed out, but, like Bio, is starting to re-emerge against her will and turn her stomach. It's probably just for something I ate. Miles decides to call it a night, and snuggles up into bed. As much as she wants to believe it's just a case of food poisoning, which shows just how much she wants to repress the real issues. Because food poisoning, as many know, isn't fun. The last words that come to her mind before trailing off to sleep curse her to face the facts. The feeling is more than just bad seafood. My Gumiho. What? I'm gonna be Gumiho, Mama.
What's so special about Gumiho, sweetheart?
Okay, Mom has a voice apparently. Everyone treats them better.
That's just a sign of respect, though, dear.
And everyone treats me like an idiot.
Ben, they're the real idiots. You're the most cunning fox I know.
Are you sure about that? I know. That's how I know I'm a Gumiho.
You'll need 9 tails if you're gonna be a Gumiho, kiddo.
But I only have 2.
Well, Mama has 3, and I have 4, so...
Papa lifted the small girl up onto his shoulders. She kicked a fuss and clamped her eyes shut. That wasn't what she meant by wanting to become a Gumiho. She didn't want to fly. Papa, stop squishing me! Eep, put me down, it's too high! Miles' Papa sat her onto his shoulders and pulled Mama closer to his side.
Look, honey.
The girl slowly opened her eyes, and as she stared down at their reflection in the water, her eyes became wide with joy. 9 tails wide behind them. The young girl's whole heart leapt. We're a Gumiho, Papa! We're a Gumiho!
As long as we're together, we are.
And we always will be.
Okay. Sure, man. Whatever you say, bud. Procrastination is a beautiful thing. It urges people to do many useful but irrelevant things at ill-chosen times. Miles is currently experiencing the supercharged but misguided sense of productivity, and has spent all morning rearranging the files back to their proper order. But, like every other superpower, her charge of usefulness is waning. When it's all gone, it will surely leave the girl in a dark place of melancholy and self-doubt. I can't believe I'll be leaving soon! Though relieved, Miles hadn't expected it to be so bittersweet. Thoughts of why she feels this way fester in her head. Her pigtails whip around, gradually becoming faster and stronger as she tries to literally shake off the thoughts. It's no use! It's no use! God. It just won't go away! Disappointed by this revelation, the fox decides to talk all her worries away, which is yet another reason why espionage may not be the best career for her. Your loyalty lies with Lord Lucifer. You can't ever forget that. She smacks her cheeks hard 3 times, and, like a magic spell, all of her worries disappear. Oh, so I just had to smack the bad thoughts away. children. I do not need to explain to you not to follow whatever this game gives advice for, because that should be fucking clear, but don't do this. But then they come back with pitchforks and sulfur. Urgh! Why do I feel so awful? The Gumi host slumps forward. Her head hits the desk quite hard. Attic has her last self-defense against everything she's trying so hard not to think about. Alas, the plan fails as easily as all of her other harebrained schemes. Why can't I stop thinking about? My mind is all jumbled. What was I just thinking about? Looking at the files once more, Miles tries to think of a way to stay at the palace a little longer. Even just a day or two more will suffice. Does the music just loop? In her mind, she weaves some tale about losing a file and another about sleep eating her report, and I'll do anything as long as it works. She knows there's more work left to do, more than just dotting I's and crossing T's. Real work. Something that is more important to her than simply being a good little worker for the main held government, because I'm not ready to leave yet. With that resolve fresh in her mind, Miles gets back to work, committing herself to it and hoping to keep her melancholy at bay. This is the round district to have those kinds of thoughts in, after all. That's that, then. She realigns all of her papers into one neat pile and looks triumphantly at the finished work. It's all there and ready to hand in. Almost, anyway. The girl recalls Celia's mentioning that Anzu is usually busy in her office for a few hours at night, and there's still one place left for Miles to visit before her job's finished, namely the governess's bedroom. There won't be much of a chance for me to sneak in, and it may be a bigger risk than she needs to take. But there might be something in there that could turn this whole thing around. It really may get into something that Lord Lucifer won't be able to ignore. And by association, Miles will no longer be a thing her lord can ignore. It's a win-win situation with zero risk. If you don't include the constant death threats from Anzu and Miles' idiotic plan to walk straight into the line instead to look for evidence that may not even be there, that is. But hey, what does she have to lose? Still on the fence about leaving, the auditor decides that now is a good time to take a break. But she needs more than just fresh air and to stretch her legs. She needs that one bit of proof that her melancholy isn't simply the product of romanticized delusions. What? No, I'm just trying to take a break like a normal person. Miles is certain that a break will heal her body of all that ails it, including a sorrow-filled heart. Seeing another face will surely help her rest her worries. Anyone except Anzu, of course, lest the government smell deceit on her and grow suspicious. God! Well, we're not gonna go see Gaki, even though I kinda want to say go see Gaki just so that I can hate life even more. I mean, Celios is the only one that's kind of been likable. We could go see Kali. Or we could go see Anzu anyways. God. I guess we'll go see Kali. Perhaps Kali will be around here somewhere. In the past, Kali always seemed to appear just when the fox had a one or two. Now that Miles wants to find her, it's proving more difficult than she could have
You do not
anticipated.
sing yourself these days.
Silver-haired girl's voice passes through one of the many doors in the service hall. Miles rushes towards it and is about to call out when she notices the second person within the room.
And I am simply concerned for your well-being.
Well, you needn't be.
Juan regrets opening the door for her the moment she hears Anzu's voice. She has been trying to avoid her, and yet she has fallen right into her domain. The smart thing would be to turn back and send Miles Wicks continuing to eavesdrop on the woman's conversation.
I'm simply fatigued by this whole ordeal. It is to be expected.
I understand your pain, milady. I merely wish to soothe it in any way that I possibly can.
Kali reaches out for the governess's hand, but the woman instantly pulls away.
Do not touch me. I thought I'd made myself clear, Kali.
Yes, governess. Still, you can't starve yourself because of that girl!
Miles's tail stands at attention, her position having been compromised. Both women stare straight at her. Slowly, she steps out from behind the door and stands before them both, not knowing exactly what she's witnessed, only that she shouldn't have seen it.
What are you doing here? I thought you were in your office. I thought...
Will you just shut up already? Your mouth never works when it should. When it does, it's to let loose the most irritating little whines to have ever disgraced my ears.
The fox has seen the governess's anger before, but it's usually diluted by her mischievous charm. There's none of that as she shouts at Kali this instance, however. By the small girl's expression, it isn't the kind of anger that she's used to here.
Are you defective?
No! I mean, yes, my lady.
Stop speaking, you defunct imbecile.
Kali's mumbling apologies quieted enough that Anzu's irritation can be redirected towards Miles.
And what are you doing here, Fox? Shouldn't you be locked away somewhere, choking yourself blue on dust and ink fumes?
What? I came to find Kali.
Her? And what could you possibly need from a thing like her?
The Gumiho can't think of a reason, however. The longer the succubus stares at her, the harder it is to come up with something
I
convincing.
said I'd help her with her work earlier.
You? Without my permission?
Yes, I mean, no, I hadn't been thinking. My governess, I apologize for my great indiscretion.
The woman just stares at her pet for a long moment. She knows that the small girl won't dare lie to her, but she also knows a bad liar when she sees one. The two troops fight with one another until none other than indifference makes Anzu give up.
Fine. Use my pet as you wish. I'm certainly done with her for the moment.
The governess departs silently. Although the silver-haired girl desperately wants to excuse her mistress's bad mood, it's far too difficult to excuse her venomous words. Quickly wiping the tears that have escaped, the girl looks back at Miles with an expression of professionalism that she knows she can't maintain for much longer.
Let us get on with it then.
The Gumiho nods, not knowing where the lie will take her, but following the girl anyway. The two sit opposite each other on the love seat, Kali pouring tea for Miles, but still not saying a word, till the teacup passes from her hand to the blonde, that is.
You didn't actually come to find me, did you?
The smaller girl's voice is deliberately low. Although it is only the two of them in the room, she can't help but feel Anzu's presence lingering around. And shockingly, she doesn't feel bad about lying to the governess. She almost feels the exact opposite way.
You probably just felt sorry for me and made that whole thing up. Or you were snooping around again and needed an excuse to get off scot-free. You must have thought I was pathetic enough to believe that you were actually looking for me when you weren't. But I'm not a fool.
Sorry, Kali, ignoring everything that you're telling me. Look at the chandelier and how oddly, 90s CGI it looks. It's really distracting and I cannot unsee it now. The more she speaks, the louder her voice becomes, until it finally cracks. Miles wordlessly watches as the first few tears roll down her porcelain face. Kali puts her tea down and scrubs the droplets away before more can roll down to take their
I'm
places.
not. And to make it very clear, I wasn't helping you back there. The governess was already stressed out because of you, and I simply didn't want to add to her.
I was.
What?
I was honestly looking for you.
You were?
The Gumiho nods and Kali becomes quiet. The two of them sit, awkwardly sipping on their teas and not speaking to each other for a long time. Alright, that's kind of nice looking. I'll give you that, game. It's kind of nice looking. And time ticks by. Silver-haired girl's emotions get the better of her and she reaches out to grab Miles.
Why'd I just do that?
Kali doesn't know what to do, so she slowly turns her head to look at the fox, but the other girl's expression remains completely neutral. Should I say something? Probably best not to. I'd just scare the rabbit off if I did. Plus, this isn't so bad.
Why isn't she saying anything?
Kali's hand grows warm and clammy from thinking about all of the things she wants to do, but can't find the courage to even talk about.
You can tell me to stop if you want me to.
I don't want to.
It's okay if you do. Anzu always tells me to stop. I'm used to it. But
Do you like it? Miles looks at the smaller girl and she shies away from the stare. She wriggles under the gaze, knowing that she already has Anzu, and that she shouldn't be doing things like this, not with the auditor. Perhaps that is just another part of Kali's newfound deception streak. The girl isn't hating it, after all.
I like holding hands. I really want to hold hands with Anzu, but she hates it.
Silver-haired girl wants to stop talking, but Anzu is right. Once she starts babbling, it is so annoyingly hard to get her to stop, especially when it comes to her favorite topic.
Sometimes I try to, but I always know she'll push me away. I know she just hates holding hands, and it's not me that she hates. But when she does things like that, I sometimes think that maybe she does hate me. And I'm just babbling now.
Yes, a lot in fact. The woman grips Kali's hand for the first time and, growing a little braver, the girl
I
continues
start
on.
to regret ever coming here.
What made you start working here in the first place?
Isn't it obvious?
Kali giggles, an unashamed blush coming to her face. It's obvious, but that doesn't mean Miles understands
I've always been about Anzu.
What's so special about her? Although she doesn't mean to, Miles grips Cully's hand a little tighter. The small girl pulls her hand away, suddenly becoming uncomfortable, being so close while thinking her present thoughts.
She's an absolutely wonderful person.
Although her Cully's feeling slowly washes away, it's hard for her to be mad at Anzu when she remembers just how much of herself she's devoted to.
She was such an enigma to me while growing up. And now, I know her better than anyone else ever has.
So you've always lived in this district then?
No. My mother and I were relocated here after the war. You know, before Anzu came, there was
Not the
nothing great
war.
about this place. There were only ghost towns and thieves. And now look at the splendor. She is such a remarkable person, resourceful and well-mannered, and so beautiful.
Dare I ask anything more? Gumiho doesn't have to. She started at something that won't end so easily.
My father used to work in the palace as a live-in, and he'd come home on the weekends. That's how I first heard about the governess. Papa was just as entranced with her as I was, the infamous Princess of Kumonoito.
Princess?
Mistress Anzu is not a princess in the traditional sense. But to us, she was like real royalty. Or maybe even something more than that. She had so many fans, and I even used to save up all my pocket money to buy pictures of her. My dad stopped coming home eventually. After a month, Mother finally let me go look for him. In truth, all I wanted to do was see Mistress Anzu. I was so excited when my wish finally came true. The lady was so beautiful that I could hardly breathe. I ran home and told my mother about her wonder, but she didn't understand. She was too busy crying about my father. She completely ignored everything I said.
Why was she
My
crying?
father had been enlisted in what would later become known as the 100-Year War. I've always regretted telling her that before telling her about my seeing Anzu. And when father never came home, it just proved my point. Governess Anzu is far more important to me than someone I'll never see again.
For a moment, the small girl goes unnaturally still, her hands lying over her knees as she looks out at the empty space in front of her. Miles half expects her to cry, but there's no expression on the girl's
Then
face.
mother died, and became another person I'd never see again.
Cully grips the tops of her stocking, and, on an exhale, seems to relax out of her corpse like trance.
After that, all I wanted was to be by my lady's side. I fought so hard to get here, to be with her. I did so many things. But she loves me, so none of that matters anymore.
The silver-haired girl stands up and smiles so happily she looks around the room at all of the things Anzu has given
Thank
her.
you, Fox.
For why?
You've reminded me of why I love her so much.
Again, my children. This is not healthy. I'm no Jonathan Decker, but your relationship looks like this. That's not a good thing.
She means everything to me.
Miles opens her mouth to protest, but the clock strikes, and Cully leaps into
It's
action.
supper already. Come on. Governess Anzu will be waiting for us in the dining room.
Miles nods, but can't share the girl's excitement. She wants to become closer to Cully, and yet she feels so much farther from her now. What little shred of hope that exists is drowned in Cully's adoration for her boss. Fox realizes she's been unably
Let's hold
defeated.
hands.
Cully holds her hand out to Miles. The girl's smile isn't for Miles, and she knows it. It's for Anzu and all the memories the two of them share. Still, the charming smile makes the Fox heart pound painfully within her chest. The silver-haired girl pulls her way into the dining hall, threading her fingers between Miles. With each pull, the Gumiho's heart grips harder. She's starting to doubt that she'll ever be able to let go of the warm, delicate hand. Sure. Over the last 3 nights, Miles has eaten more food than she would usually consume in a month. As much as she wants to carry on feasting on the decadent spread, knowing that such luxuries are out of reach in her own salary, she can't find her appetite, which doesn't go unnoticed by Salios, who's sitting beside
Perhaps
her.
something lighter would suit you better. Today's salad has a kumquat vinaigrette. It's very good. Wouldn't you agree, Callie?
It's not as good as yesterday's.
You're not helping.
She's not eating.
That does seem to be the case.
Perhaps she's dying.
One should not speak when they have nothing of value to say.
Perhaps our guest needs to.
I'm fine, Miles says curtly, cutting them all off. She looks down on her plate. As much as she wants to eat and put all of their minds at ease, she simply can't find the strength to do it. The moment she finishes this plate will be the moment she is finished here. Although it's a tad hyperbolic, it's hard to think rationally when your heart weighs more than your
Are
mind.
you mayhap anxious about the fact that you'll be leaving us soon?
Miles feels embarrassed to admit it, especially to Anzu. She really shouldn't feel this sad about leaving, but she just is. My work will be done soon.
And then?
I'll be returning to the main hell government to hand in my report. I promise not to linger longer than I must.
Why is that? Please, don't feel like you have to leave so promptly. I'm sure we'll all be sad to see you go. And it would be nice if we could give you a proper farewell. Don't you agree, Governess?
Of course I don't.
You can't actually mean that.
Why not? The only thing that's disappointing me is that her departure isn't sooner.
Anzu's gleaming eye slides over to Kali, wanting the girl to chip in like she usually does. It doesn't come, however, so Anzu goes to the girl for a better
And
reaction.
Carly feels the same way, I am sure.
What the silver-haired girl doesn't realize is that her pathetic expression is visible for all to see. The way she's looking at Miles causes the government's teasing grin to strain under the weight of her repressed irritation.
Or am I perhaps mistaken, pet?
The silver-haired girl lowers her head and tries to hide from Anzu's stare, but the woman's expression doesn't change. So, being a writer, you notice certain things, such as them repeatedly calling Kali the silver-haired girl, which I've admittedly have done with certain characters in the past. I've repeatedly referred to them as a physical identifier. The issue is, when I've done it with characters, they were minor characters that only are in the story for maybe a couple pages. Kali's like one of the main cast. And you can find a better identifier, is the point that I'm trying to make as far as that goes.
Don't try to hide it any
It's
longer.
wordy.
You've already been caught. You should at least have the decency to stand by your lack of indifference.
Because when you don't want to use the name or the pronoun associated with that character, you want to keep it short and brief. Like referring to a character's nationality if it's quote-unquote out of place for the country they're in. For example, a English person or an Englishman in America would be common to refer to that person as the Englishman. It's bothering me. As many things do in this game. But the girl doesn't try to deny it, instead choosing to remain
Aren't you
quiet.
going to try to at least defend your infidelity, Carly?
Infidelity? Goodness.
Nothing to say, my governess.
Really? Nothing? Nothing at all? My, aren't you just the coldest little paint?
I didn't mean to come off as such, milady.
I'll miss you too, Kali. Kali's head rises from her plate. The girl wants to smile and cry and say it back to Miles, but the words are stuck in her throat and held back by the pitiful look of understanding that Gumiho is giving her. The girl's face reddens under all of her pent-up emotions. With the slightest of nods, she hides her face and falls mute, smiling to herself. Out of the corner of her eyes, Miles catches a strange look on Celio's face. Though he was the first to speak initially, he suddenly seems a lot less festive. Are you alright?
Yes, of course. I was just thinking about how happy you must be to finally go home. And that, perhaps, you wish the time would come quicker. If it were sooner, you'd still have your appetite, and wouldn't feel burdened by all these goodbyes. Though, I am glad to have met you. I only wish I'd been able to make your stay here easier.
You did. You're always so considerate.
I would say it's in my nature, but if I lived up to that, I'd probably have sucked all the blood out of your veins by now. I meant that as a joke, of course. Vampires have better self-control than they're given credit for, and I've gone and talked myself into a hole again, haven't I?
Only a little one. But Miles will miss Celio's fumbling attempts at being the best host he can. Even if he does, on occasion, slip up, he has been the biggest asset to Miles, and she's grateful he's around. Don't worry, Celios. I understand. I'm glad you're so easy to talk
And I'm glad
to.
you're able to return home, where you might feel more comfortable.
And I, too, am so very happy as well. I know how you pine for your old home, and believe me, I pine just as much for mine. You know, as it was before you came and upchucked my entire palace for your report. I can already feel things returning to how they used to be, Like they will always be, no matter what.
I'm sorry for my presence has been such a burden to you all.
Perhaps not all of us. You seem to have made quite the impression on my subordinates. But, like children, they do not realize what is best for them. I'm sure you shall be missed for the better part of a day before you are forgotten.
Why do you have to be so cruel? Miles hangs her head, trying to hide her dampening eyes from Anzu's probing stare. She knows that this is what the woman wants. It's the woman's last attack before she leaves. It's a fitting farewell coming from
Don't
Anzu.
misunderstand, girl. I had certainly not intended to sound so harsh.
Which is close to an admittance that the governess might remember Miles for more than the better part of a day, as it'll get. With the grand woman's final words, dinner concludes in a strange silence. And so, this is how Miles' last dinner in Humanoid to a Palace goes. Miles spends more of her time thinking over what she's about to do than actually working. She watches the clock, just waiting for the moment she will come to some absolute decision. Will she really be foolish enough to do it? Perhaps will she realize how futile her plan is? That will not happen though, of course, and so Miles waits for the right time to leave her office and sneak into Anzu's room. That time comes and passes. I shouldn't go. I've completely missed my opportunity. It'd be really stupid to go right now. Miles looks back at the clock. For a whole minute, she feels confident that staying right there is the right decision. Then she looks at her report. There's nothing in it that incriminates Anzu or that'll be of any use to Lucifer, the latter being the biggest problem. If there's nothing useful in her report, she'll only prove how useless she herself is by extension. Miles makes a decision to leave her office. She's going to put an end to Anzu's scheme once and for all. If it's the last thing she does. For her sake, let's hope it isn't. Well, you know, you're a little more hopeful than I am, Mr. Narrator. Once again, the Gumiho encounters a common problem for people who wish to access a place they shouldn't have access to. A door. Hell is full of doors, because they are, by far, the most evil device known to man. A cruel temptress with endless secrets, and simply opening one could lead to an array of possibilities, like an all-expense-paid holiday or certain death. This particular door could indeed potentially lead to some of the said prizes, but it is hard to tell which is more likely. The only way to find out is for Miles to open the door and see what lies beyond it. Burn the door down. Fine, we'll be normal and try to open the door. Seriously, what's the worst that could happen? Girl reaches out and grabs the door handle, expecting the worst, and, for once in her fortunate life, getting the best. The door opens silently into a dark, empty room. The air feels cold and stale, like it hasn't been disturbed for an indiscernible amount of time. It's great to see life reward those who do the rational thing and don't overreact. Hopefully Miles will experience many more of these events and curb her own irrational nature. It would certainly add years onto her life, but it would also be far less entertaining to narrate. Now inside the room, Miles starts to look around for anything that will add some extra pizzazz to her report and turn her from an expendable employee to a prized one. She checks all the usual hiding places, under the bed, in the closet, the very back of Anzu's overly organized sock drawer, and even underneath the mattress, where the woman evidently hides many other things that are not quite secret documents, and yet, nothing. The Gumiho looks around the room once more and notices something that didn't originally strike her as odd. It is the only portrait in the entire room, hanging... But there's... 1... 2... 1... 2... It's the only portrait in the entire room. Hanging behind an almost transparent black veil is a painting of a handsome man. Pulling the light fabric away, there's a small, dirty shrine at the bottom of the portrait. Miles knows she shouldn't touch it, but she's starting to get desperate. She lifts the shrine, revealing a scorched, brown folder. This is it! It is, a folder with more than enough information to get Anzu in a whole lot of trouble. Why would she hide this here, though? Beneath the shrine of a man Miles doesn't recognize, although she feels like she should, that is. The auditor clutches the vial close to her body and, feeling the judgmental stare of the painting, bows her head. She quickly leads to the front door of Anzu's room with the folder. Miles takes the document back to her room and hides them within her pillowcase. At first, it seems like a good idea, but when she tries to sleep, all the guilt and regret presses against her face in the form of a hard, flat folder that reeks of incense. She tosses the pillow aside and lays down on the bare mattress. Without enough to do, the girl falls asleep, banishing away all memories of what she's done for another day. How isn't this done yet? New days don't always bring new beginnings. Usually they just bring the same old shit. But not today. Today's going to be a game changer. Miles is finally going to get what's coming to her. No more sneaking around, no more Kumanoid to palace, and most importantly, no more death threats for now, that is. With her belongings all packed, Miles tries to sneak out undetected. Can't anyone see my report before I can...
Fox?
Hi. Anzu's voice booms from atop the stairs, scaring the soul out of the fox.
I thought I smelled deceit in the air. Where are you sneaking off to?
The governess walks down the stairs with Kali close behind. Miles gets the strangest feeling of deja vu as the woman stalks towards her with the same disproved scowl she had on Miles' first day in the palace. The feeling is swept away the moment the silver-haired girl looks up. Unlike their first meeting, however, the girl isn't scowling. She looks curiously at the box and then back at her mistress, wondering who will break the tense silence first. The blonde holds her belongings to her chest, hearing her report crumple against her parcel.
It looks like she's leaving.
Is that correct, Fox?
Yes, I managed to finish my work ahead of schedule. As promised, I won't linger. I'll be leaving now.
Before breakfast?
Yes, my apologies, but I must return to the most audacious one as soon as I
If
can.
you leave hungry, Lucy might think I purposely starved you into submission. Do you truly wish to drag my name through the dirt so cruelly?
We cannot allow that.
Then we have all reached an agreement.
And by all, Anzu means everyone except Miles, who hasn't agreed to anything, because she was never directly asked anything.
We shall have one final meal together.
The governess leads the way to the dining room. Fox waits for a moment, thinking she might be able to make a run for it while the governess isn't looking. Oh, I'm a glutton for punishment. We'll
Let's
go eat
go.
with them. Miles looks behind herself to find Kali. The girl waits patiently for her to begin walking. And though she is smiling, there isn't a trace of readable emotion on her face. Her smile feels fake, and her eyes look dead. Although she's no longer hostile towards the auditors, they're still far from being friends. Miles does as she's told and walks into the dining room, with Kali close behind her. Celios and Anzu stand by the table, a long list stretched down between them, the end of it running the length of the succubus's whole body. Parchment, however, suddenly disappears after the governess stamps her seal onto it, and food slowly begins to appear on the table, one dish at a time. Kali and Miles take their seats, just as the last few dishes appear. The Fox's shock isn't missed by a single person.
Now I'm certain they don't feed you up there. I've never seen someone so amazed at catered food before.
Catered? By whom?
The Ghost Catering Company. They've made quite a name for themselves in the last century, though they have Governess Anzu to thank for that.
I like their subtlety. I don't have to see or hear them. I simply get to eat the spoils of their labor.
She's been using their services since they were first established, and now there's not a single noble in Kumanoito who doesn't outsource their catering to them. It's why this district is what it is today. Governess Anzu's first action as an official was to invest in small businesses, especially those traditionally thought untouchable.
With the mistress's approval, there's no need to worry about prejudice. Others have always strived to emulate her cunning eye for opportunity, but have all failed.
Celios, Kali, enough. We shouldn't be talking about me. I am not the one who has tried to sneak off like a common thief. We should be focusing on them instead, should we not?
Sneak off? About to leave? So soon?
Celios gives the girl a look that says it all. He's
And
hurt.
she wasn't even going to say goodbye to any of us. How very rude.
Miles doesn't eat very much. When the time comes to go, everyone walks her to the entrance. One final look over her shoulder, the doors to Kumanoito House closes on Miles one last time. She steps out into the courtyard where an incantation waits to take her home. Since the last time Lord Lucifer tried to deal with a complaint, they haven't had nearly as much peace as they thought they would. More specifically, their actions have had a serious domino effect, and now they're surrounded by even more
The
irritating
3rd district has been without a governor for 3 days. 3 days! The Murcielago residents will steal the very shirts off our backs if they're not controlled.
Who gives a flying bat's ass about the 3rd district? We haven't had contact with the 7th for an entire month. We don't even know if their governor is still alive. And now look at them. I told you that a revolt like theirs wasn't something to be taken lightly.
Revolts happen, get over it. What's really troubling is that the 5th district still has that pig as a governor. Someone who makes so little effort with their personal hygiene can certainly not be trusted.
Just like someone who wears a mask, I suppose. Who even approved such a ludicrous law?
I did! Well, that explains everything.
You and the rest of Phantasma need to be exposed, and I'm not speaking figuratively.
Can we at least try to focus on the big issue here? Bigger than gluttons? I cannot believe that such a problem exists. But there is. The 2nd district.
At the mention of the 2nd district, the room goes quiet and the advisors shake their heads. It's unspeakable the things that go on in the Fushuang. So unspeakable even that a bunch of yapping advisors whose only job are to voice their overbearing anxieties dare not speak about it for longer than necessary. They all look to Lucifer, but the Overlord hasn't said a word since their meeting began, and it is clear why. The ruler sits on their throne, donning a pair of large headphones and an annoyed expression. The sounds of screams and terrors of Volume 666 hasn't improved their mood one bit, not when all of their time is dominated by
My
meetings
Overlord,
like this.
your input would be far more useful than anything we could say.
But Lucifer doesn't say anything. They simply watch the advisor's lips flap, and in their mind, they imagine what they might be saying.
Please, won't you crush my skull? No, me! I've decided that a green pea suit is in fact more of an abomination than Satan himself!
Lucifer mimics them all in a high, screeching voice.
I thought you liked green.
No! Boom!
A shot flies past the third advisor's ear and
Try
misses
again, my
soundly.
overlord. This time I'll stay very, very still.
Lucifer aims through one eye, and though the advisor is still moving, they're certain the next shot won't miss. But then the Overlord notices two ears twitching just behind one of the base stands. Double lowers their smoking finger pistol from the advisor's head and pulls off their headphones.
Way to escape from this hellish meeting. Fox!
The audience of advisor, counselors, and strategists all fan out and let Miles walk
You
towards
may
the front
all
of the room.
leave now.
But...
Out!
The door slams open and the audience shuffles away. Finally, the entrance shuts, locking the auditor into the deadly quiet front room with Lucifer. Dreams really
What do
do
you
come
have
true.
for me? Whatever your name is.
Oh, I don't really care which option you give me here, game. I can either rat out Anzu, which you can't say that because the camera's covering it, or lie about her guilt. I really don't care. We'll be an asshole. Anzu's an asshole. Of course, I'm great and evil one in the most wicked
Oh,
existence.
how I missed that. No one knows how to address me the way you do.
Mine was great overlord of all that shines
Yes,
in the
that
darkness.
was it. I'll remember that name. If what you have proves to be useful, that is.
I've discovered that things are exactly as the third district suspected. Anzu has been altering her soul counts and investing the surplus in the ghost towns of her district. These altercations don't seem like they'd be possible with Raffle's souls alone, and from her own documents, I believe I have evidence that she's been stealing other
Bring
types of
it here.
souls. The auditor approaches Lucifer. Waves of energy emit from the Overlord, and the closer Miles walks to them, the harder it is to keep her head and her legs from collapsing. Before she crosses the ground, Lucifer takes the folder containing the report and the document she stole from Anzu's bedroom. Miles listens to the sound of the flipping paper and slowly crawls backwards. Once far enough away from the Overlord, she's able to stand once more. She looks on with an expectant smile at her master. What do you mean? Those documents are... They sigh heavily and toss the report and documents to the side. The sheets fall from the folder and scatter across the ground. Same documents that Miles had
If
risking
that's
everything
all,
for.
then you can leave and return to your normal tasks, Fox.
What are you doing, my governess Anzu? The ruler shrugs while pulling their headphones
She's
back
no
on.
longer your concern. And thanks to this report, she's no longer.
Why did you whisper that? Lucifer waves her hand in Miles' direction and flings the fox across the room. Just before the girl hits the door, they swing open, expelling her from the front room. The door shut on her face, leaving her hunched over and sword, tearing up in the hallway where everyone could see her. To say this meeting has been anticlimactic would be an understatement, and to say that Miles walks away from it with her tails between her legs isn't as figurative saying at all. It looks like the girl isn't nearly as valued here as she thought she was. How's it still going? Soon Miles will know the greatest pleasure of returning home, opening the door and being hit by a sudden feeling of emptiness. Never will her two-room apartment ever feel more inadequate or lonely than in those first few moments of returning home. Fortunately, Miles will be spared the glorious moment of revelation because as the girl approaches her apartment complex, a familiar figure will prevent her from having to feel that glorious moment of awakening in regret. A figure she recognizes instantly with a simple glance. Her whole heart fills with joy she doesn't know how to contain. Tears in her eyes, she runs as fast as her legs can carry her. She continues towards the man. As if from nowhere, a grand piano falls from the sky, killing her instantly. What? This is no accident, it's a punishment from the gods of coincidence and Fen pot lines. Miles did not take heed of the narrator's guidance, therefore she must be flattened into a caricature of herself. Her final current call will be a pathetic, overplayed, comical ending, which is still far more than what a loss of the universe rejector deserves. As for the figure, they simply stare at the broken piano and walk away, never to know that their very own special Gumio, Miles, is laying dead beneath its remnants. And you will never know who they are. Thanks to Miles' inability to play out her story correctly, they will forever remain a mystery. Good day to you. Okay, game. Sure, man. Whatever you say, bud. Do I have to give you my thoughts? Do I have to let you know what I thought of this game? My opinion? I can't even put thoughts into words right now. And I mainly blame the ending. Now, I get game. I didn't pick the exact options that you wanted me to. I do not think very highly of this game, as is plainly obvious. But that will finally put this game to rest. It is done. And now we can move on to maybe better things. But for now, I do thank you all so very much for watching. And as always, good night and joy be with you all.